Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to see how to handle ShadowDOM in Selenium. So what is ShadowDOM? ShadowDOM is a separate portion within a web page which is isolated from main DOM. For example, so consider this is our main DOM, right? Which has some HTML code in it, right? And so this is our main DOM. So ShadowDOM is isolated within the main DOM. It will be present within the main DOM, but it is a separate portion, right? And how the structure will be in the shadow DOM, right? So it will be having a shadow host. So there will be something called shadow host within the shadow DOM. And within the shadow host, like underneath it, we do have a shadow root. So this is all the hierarchy within the shadow DOM, right? Which is a separate portion within the main DOM, right? So it has a shadow host, and a shadow host will have a shadow root underneath it. And underneath it, we do have the elements, element 1, element 2, and so on, right? So these elements could be like or anchor tag, input, right? Div tag, anything, any element underneath the shadow root, right? So this is what we call it as one structure, one shadow host, right? Or one shadow tree. And like how we do have element 1, element 2. So one of the element could be shadow host again, right? So it is like an inner shadow host inside it. So one of the elements within the shadow root could be shadow host itself, right? So let's call that as inner shadow host. So inner shadow host, again, when we have shadow host, so the hierarchy follows again. Underneath it, shadow root, and shadow root will have the actual elements, right? So a number of elements underneath it. Again, it can have nested shadow host, right? So one of the element of that shadow root could be another shadow host. Like this, we can have n levels of shadow host, right? Or we can have within the same shadow DOM, right? So we can have a number of shadow hosts as well, right? So this is what we call it as shadow DOM, and it is separate or isolated from the main DOM. And this hierarchy, right? Shadow host, shadow root, and underneath elements, all this hierarchy, we call it as a shadow tree, right? And yeah, now let's see this in a pictorial form. So if we see here, the first part, documentary. So this is a document, HTML document, and it has a shadow host. See, and then look at the second one, right? Shadow host has a shadow root, and shadow root will have elements underneath it, right? So this is what we call it as a shadow tree. So a shadow root can have the elements. So a shadow root will come from a shadow host, and shadow root will have the elements underneath it. And this is what we call it as a shadow tree, right? And these two, so combined, we can see it here, right? So a document which has a shadow host, and a shadow host will have a shadow root with underneath it, it will have the elements, which we call it as a shadow tree, right? So this is the understanding of what shadow DOM is, right? Now, let us see this structure in an example. So let me show you a website which has, shadow DOM in it. And then we'll see how to automate the shadow DOM in Selenium. So say, for example, this is a website, right? So I'll just inspect this shop now button. So observe carefully. So this is shop now button, right? So if you see here, slowly I scroll up here and you can see a shadow root here, right? So this button shop now is underneath the shadow root. And this shop home tag is what we call it as shadow host, right? So that's the hierarchy we learned, right? Shadow host, underneath it shadow root, and underneath it can have elements. So style is one element, div is another element. Underneath it div, we have anchor tag and shop button. So shop button is a custom tag, right? So this is the hierarchy. And if you observe, so this shop home, which we are calling it as a shadow host, is not the first shadow host within this shadow DOM. So if we observe, so if I slowly scroll up, so if you can see, this is coming from another shadow root. See, shop app page equal to home, right? So this is coming within a, so this is where it started, HTML page started, body, and within it, it had shop app page equal to home, something, right? So underneath it, so we should call this as a shadow host, and underneath it, we have a shadow root. See, if I collapse this, so this is what it is, right? So if I expand this underneath this shadow root, we do have other shadow host. See, that's why we call it as nested shadow host. See, this is the one. This is shadow root, and we need this one. So it has iron pages tag, but we need shop home tag, right? So which underneath it, it has shadow root, and underneath it, we had the shop now button. So this is the hierarchy. So the hierarchy is shadow host, shadow root, and the element underneath it, right? So we have to navigate through all this path in order to locate the element. So we need to follow this hierarchy, or else we can't locate the element within the ShadowDOM. So now let's try to automate this. So it's simple. We wanted to click on this button, shop now, right? And for that, so once we click on it, it has to take us to this men's outerwear, right? This page. So let's see how to automate this. So I already have the code written here. So for just launching the browser, we have implicit wait of 10 seconds. We are navigating to the particular URL and maximizing the window. All right. Now, what we wanted to do. So we wanted to actually, so what we'll do is we wanted to click on this button, right? So why can't we use XPath? So let's try to use XPath for this. So I'll just click on it. I'll just right click on this and use the DevTools XPath, copy XPath, right? So let's go back and try driver dot find element by dot XPath. And I'm having the XPath here, right? And also I'll click on this. So this is a button, right? So we can click on it. We have to close another bracket, dot click, right? So this is valid. Now let us see. I'm executing this. So we are just navigating to the particular URL and then clicking on a button using its path. Let us see now what happens. Yeah, Chrome browser has been launched and has to navigate to the specified URL. And our expectation is to click on the button, shop now button, right? So let's see. Now, yeah, if you observe, so it is trying to click on the shop now button. And yeah, if you go back to the Eclipse again, yeah, we can clearly see we got an exception, no such element exception. So it is unable to locate the element, right? So it is unable to locate the element, this XPath, right? So seems like this is a absolute XPath, right? But still it is not able to identify this element. So, but this we got it from DevTools itself, right? So this is because it is not able to identify the element directly, as this element is not the regular element, but it is inside a shadow DOM. So we have to locate this element in a different way. So how do you locate this element, right? So for this, so what we need to do is first we need to find the shadow host, right? So we'll use the regular driver dot find element, and then so XPath will not work here for the shadow DOM. So we definitely need to use CSS selector here. Remember, we need to use CSS selector here, right? So how do we find the shadow host, and why do we need to find the shadow host? We need to navigate through the root for the first from the top till the node which we wanted to locate, right? So this will be the shadow host. Underneath it we have a shadow root, and again under that shadow root we have the another one shadow, this one shop core, right? So that's how we need to navigate through. So first we need to find out this. So I'm inspecting this, and let's go to SelectorsHub. So here is the CSS selector, right? So navigate this again. So if you navigate this, if you inspect this element button, so SelectorsHub clearly says that you are in ShadowDOM and this element is inside ShadowDOM, which can't be accessed through XPath. It is clearly saying that, right? And it is also giving you a hint to use CSS selector for it, right? So what we need to do for this, we need to navigate from the shadow host. So for that, so if you go here, you will get the CSS selector. So get real CSS selector here. So we should not be using XPath, right? So y dot CSS selector. This is the CSS selector for the shadow host, right? So, and this find element, we have to actually capture that into a search context. So search context is a interface, right? Which is a parent interface for WebDriver, right? So let's call this as shadow 0. Right? Then, so this is our shadow host, right? Now, from this, we need the root, shadow root. So we can use a method called get shadow root. There is a method in the, you know, find element. Find element actually returns web element, right? So web element interface has a method called get shadow root, which actually gives you the shadow root, which is just immediately after the shadow host. So this will actually give us the shadow root. So that we can capture it into a variable, right? Or an object called shadow or shadow 0, right? This is my search context. Now, it's better we add a sleep time here of maybe 1 or 2 seconds, right? And then, so we do have the shadow root of first level now, right? So we are here now. Now we need to find out the next level. What is our next level? So you can see here. So if you slowly scroll down, so this is our next level because we do have our shop now object here, right? So which is underneath this shadow root. For that, this is the shadow host. So click on this and you get the CSS selector here. So just go back and you can get the drive. So we will be using the shadow 0 dot find element and then y dot CSS selector, and then we can get it like this. And again, we need to get the shadow root, right? Get shadow root of it and capture this into search context object, which we can call it as shadow 1, right? And again, like wait for a second or two. And once we are done with this, we will be using the shadow 1 and we'll be clicking on the button because we are already here now, right? Into the shop home, and then underneath the shadow root, we have the elements. So one of the elements is shop button or this anchor tag, right? So just click on this and you can find the related CSS selector here. Just copy that and then shadow 1 dot find element y dot CSS selector. Just have the CSS selector as is here. Right? This we can capture that into a web element. Web element. This I'll be calling it as shop now. This is the actual element we wanted to click on. Now we can just click on this element now. So you can just get the text of shop now element dot get text, and then we'll interact with the element. What's the interaction we wanted to do? We wanted to click on it, right? Shop now dot click. Right? So this is the code. So what did we do here? We are navigating from the shadow host. So this was the parent shadow host. And then from this, so how did we got the shadow host? So we can't use XPath. So SelectorsHub clearly gave us a hint that we can't use the XPath and we have to use the CSS selector. So we use the CSS selector for that to find out the shadow host. And from that, we got the shadow root. So once we get the shadow root, so using that, again, we found out the second level of shadow host, right? So this is what the second level of shadow host is. And from that, again, we got the shadow root. So this is the shadow root of the inner second level of shadow DOM, right? And from this, it has the elements within it. So we wanted a particular element, which is shop now element. So we are using CSS selector for it and found the element. And we capture that like any other regular web element. And we are just clicking on that button, right? So this is how you need to actually go through or navigate till the node you wanted to locate from the parent shadow host, right? So let's run this now and verify. So before that, let me close the previous runway window. Now observe. Yeah, it clicked on it, right? So you can clearly see that it clicked on it and you can see men's outerwear and you can also see that get text here, right? So this is how we can easily automate the shadow DOM. And a simple, like we have written this code, right? Say for example, if you have more levels of shadow roots within it, right? So say for example, 3, 4 levels like that. So how do we write it? So this is a bit tricky for us to complete this code, right? So SelectorsHub will be very much helpful for us in this case. So you just need to, you can go through here, right? So within this, if you see here in the last column, so you do have some code here written, right? So you can just copy this. On the left, you have the copy icon, just click on that. If you see here, so I'll just comment this out. And if you see here, so this is what I got the code from it. And if you see, this is CSS selector for host 1, host 2, and this is this they are just this is just for our reference. You can just delete the first 3 lines and see here shadow 0 driver dot find element. So if you observe, this is the exact code which we have written. See shadow 1 shadow 0 dot find element exact, right? So and also shop now element. So this is shadow 1 dot find element, right? So you just need to click on this. You can even do dot click on it. So it is saying error because you just need to escape this double quote here. That's all. So except that, so the code is as is, right? So what we have written manually is already provided by SelectorsHub. So you don't need to even worry about how to write this, right? You can just go to SelectorsHub, just copy this code as is. It's given already. So you just need to copy it as is and run it. That's all. So even this will work. So let me put it here, this one here. So this is the code we got it from SelectorsHub. So let me also show you by running this code, which we got it from SelectorsHub. I didn't do anything here, did not modify anything, just commented out what we have written manually and got the code copied from SelectorsHub. And this, there was some error to escape this double quotes. I just escaped it and just, used the dot click method on this element, right? So let me run this program. We'll verify. You can clearly see this is exactly the earlier program which we have written. So it should work definitely. Yeah, you can see it navigates to the URL and it should click on shop now. Yes, it clicks on shop now and you can see men's outerwear, right? And you can see here the console as well. Okay, we didn't print anything here, right? So we don't have anything displayed on the console. All right. So anyway, it clicked on the button, right? So the whole point here is you can use the code provided by SelectorsHub so that you can easily, write the code for any shadow DOM element, right? So this is all about it. And you can also use JavaScript executor to automate the shadow DOM, right? So, but this is very simple and easy compared to using the JavaScript executor, right? And why do we need to use shadow DOM in web pages while designing web pages is, so because of two major benefits: reusability, because we can create reusable UI components, so which behaves consistently regardless of wherever you use this component in the application. So that's one part. And the other benefit we get is the reduced scope of style recalculations. That is, browsers can optimize rendering more effectively, so leading to better performance because the styles are scoped only within the shadow tree, right? So that's the reason it leads to better performance, right? So these are the two major benefits: reusability and better performance. This is the reason developers actually use ShadowDOM while designing the web page or the HTML document, right? So, and our challenge is how do we automate it? So we can't directly automate the ShadowDOM using the regular locators like XPath. So we have to use CSS selector with it, and along with that, we need to use a method called get shadow root, and we need to automate this way. And SelectorsHub will be very much helpful for us to write the code for it. So once you inspect the element, so it actually gives you the code here, right? We have seen that you can just copy it here and then verify if you need to make any modification and then run it. That's all. So this is how we can actually handle Shadow DOM in Selenium. So if you like the video, please like, subscribe, and share it. Thanks for watching.